The cream-colored envelope trembled in my hands as I read the gold-embossed text for the third time. Join us for the grand opening of Eloise, where culinary dreams come true. My name is Savannah, and I just discovered my husband named his new restaurant after his mistress. The invitation dropped from my fingers onto our marble kitchen counter, the same counter where Brian and I had spent countless nights planning this restaurant, our shared dream. The dream I'd emptied my savings account to fund. Sasha, I called my sister, my voice cracking. Did you know about this? About what? She picked up on the first ring. Sav, are you okay? The restaurant. He named it Eloise. I swallowed hard. Who names a restaurant Eloise? Oh, God. Sasha's sharp intake of breath told me she knew exactly who Eloise was. That blonde from the charity gala? The one who kept hanging around the kitchen? You knew? The betrayal stung twice as hard. I had suspicions, but I didn't want to. She paused. Want me to come over? Please. 20 minutes later, Sasha burst through my front door, holding a bottle of wine and wearing her signature, "Someone's about to get their ass kicked" expression. She found me sitting at the kitchen island, surrounded by bank statements and loan documents. Before we reveal what happens next, we wonder, do you think our protagonist is making the right choice? Share your thoughts in the comments. Now, back to our unfolding situation. I gave him everything, I said, pushing a paper toward her. $300,000. My entire inheritance from Papa. Everything I saved working double shifts at that stupid diner. Sasha poured 2 generous glasses of wine. We'll fix this. We'll talk to a lawyer. No. I stood up, pacing the kitchen. That's not enough. He needs to feel what this feels like. To have everything you worked for turned into a joke, a monument to someone else's. Savannah, Sasha warned. Revenge isn't... Wait. I stopped, picking up the invitation again. The opening's this Friday. They're expecting food critics from every major publication. So, a plan started forming in my mind. Remember Marcus, the food critic I dated last year? The pretentious one who wouldn't shut up about proper risotto technique? He taught me everything about being a critic. The terminology, the process, how to remain anonymous. I turned to Sasha, my heart racing. What if I went to the opening as a critic? Sasha's eyes widened. You can't be serious. I already have a pseudonym. I've been writing reviews for small publications under Victoria Stone for months now. It was supposed to be a hobby, but I pulled out my phone, showing Sasha my latest review. I have a following. People trust my opinion. Holy shit, Sasha whispered, scrolling through the comments. These are actually good, really good. One scathing review from me could tank his opening night. I took a deep breath. And I know every weakness in his cooking. Every shortcut he takes when he's stressed. This is insane. Sasha set down her wine glass. But if we're doing this, we're doing it right. You can't look anything like yourself. For the next hour, we planned. Sasha, being a makeup artist, knew exactly how to transform me. We ordered a wig, colored contacts, and planned an outfit that screamed sophisticated food critic while being completely unlike anything in my usual wardrobe. What about your accent? Sasha asked. He'll recognize it. Victoria Stone speaks with a slight British accent, I said, slipping into the voice I'd practiced for months. Studied at Le Cordon Bleu Paris. Damn, sis. Sasha looked impressed. You've really thought this through. I had to have something that was just mine. I felt tears threatening again. While he was building his dream restaurant with my money and sleeping with his perfect blonde hostess, I was building this other life. I just never thought I'd use it like this. My phone buzzed. A text from Brian. Hey babe, sorry I'll be late again. Lots of prep for the opening. Don't wait up. I showed Sasha the message, and she cursed under her breath. Friday night, I said, deleting the message. Victoria Stone will have a front row seat to watch everything he built come crashing down. And the best part? I picked up the invitation, running my finger over the golden letters. He'll never know it was me. Just promise me one thing, Sasha said, gripping my hand. Promise you won't let this consume you. Get your revenge, but don't lose yourself in it. I nodded, but we both knew it was already too late for that. The moment I saw Eloise's name in gold lettering, something in me had shifted. The loving, supportive wife was gone, replaced by someone with nothing left to lose. Friday night, I repeated, raising my wine glass. To karma. Sasha clinked her glass against mine, but her eyes were worried. To To karma. Just remember, sis, it works both ways. I smiled, but inside, my mind was already racing through every detail of my plan. Bran thought he could use my money to build a shrine to his mistress? Fine. I'd use everything he taught me to burn it all down. Stop fidgeting with the wig, Sasha hissed, slapping my hand away from my hairline. The adhesive needs another minute to set. Friday night had arrived faster than I'd expected. We were parked a block away from Eloise, and my stomach was doing somersaults. Run through the backstory again, Sasha demanded, adjusting my honey blonde wig one final time. Victoria Stone, 38, graduated Le Cordon Bleu Paris, I recited in my practiced British accent, currently writing for the Culinary Chronicle and 3 other publications, known for being fair but ruthless when standards aren't met. And if Brian comes to your table? I never speak directly to chefs during initial reviews. It compromises objectivity. I checked my reflection in the visor mirror, barely recognizing myself. The colored contacts turned my dark eyes a striking green, and Sasha's contouring had completely transformed my face structure. Your reservation is for 7, Sasha reminded me, checking her phone. That gives you 15 minutes to get in character. I pulled out my critic's notebook. Leather-bound, professional, exactly what Victoria Stone would carry. I still can't believe they accepted my last-minute reservation request. Are you kidding? Victoria Stone has over 50,000 followers. They probably bumped someone to fit you in. Sasha squeezed my hand. You sure you want to do this? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Brian. Big night tonight. Wish me luck. I showed it to Sasha, who rolled her eyes. The audacity of this man. Let's go. I stepped out of the car, smoothing down my charcoal designer dress, another purchase that had made my credit card scream. Walking toward the restaurant, I felt my confidence growing with each click of my heels. Victoria Stone didn't worry about betrayal or heartbreak. She worried about wine pairings and proper sauce consistency. The restaurant's exterior stopped me in my tracks. The signage was elegant, with Eloise written in flowing script that looked eerily similar to my own handwriting. Of course, Brian had used the design I'd sketched for him months ago, back when we thought the restaurant would carry my name. Good evening, the hostess greeted me. Not Eloise, thankfully. Do you have a reservation? Victoria Stone, I replied coolly, watching her eyes widen slightly. Ms. Stone, yes, of course. We've been expecting you. Right this way. She led me to a prime table with a clear view of both the kitchen and the dining room, perfect for observing everything and everyone. I'd barely settled in when I heard Brian's voice from the kitchen. Is she here? The critic? Just seated, chef. Table 12. Remember, I heard him tell his staff, everything has to be perfect tonight. This review could make or break us. If he only knew. A young server approached my table, her hands trembling slightly as she presented the wine list. Good evening, Ms. Stone. I'm Paisley, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Something in her nervous energy reminded me of myself years ago, when I was still waiting tables. I softened my critic's persona slightly. Thank you, Paisley. I'll start with a glass of the Chateau Margaux, 2015, if you have it. Excellent choice, she smiled, visibly relieved. And may I tell you about our specials? As she described each dish, I noticed how her eyes lit up when discussing the ingredients. This wasn't just a job for her. She had passion. Are you interested in cooking? I asked. Yes, she caught herself, lowering her voice. Actually, I'm in culinary school, working here to learn from Chef Brian, though he doesn't really... She trailed off. Doesn't really what? He doesn't let anyone but Samir, his sous chef, near the main stations. Says we'll just mess things up. She shrugged. Anyway, I'll get your wine. I made a note in my book. Not about the food, about Paisley, about opportunities denied. The dining room slowly filled with other patrons, their excited chatter creating a pleasant buzz. Then suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. I looked up to see her walking in. Eloise. She was even more beautiful than I remembered from the gala. Tall, graceful, wearing a deep blue dress that made her look like she'd stepped out of a magazine. She moved through the restaurant like she owned it, which, in a way, she did. My hand tightened around my pen as she approached my table. Ms. Stone, she smiled warmly. I'm Eloise. Welcome to my restaurant. Your restaurant? I wanted to scream. I paid for every tile, every plate, every damn wine glass. Instead, I smiled Victoria's practiced smile. Charming space. The design is quite personal. Oh, yes, she beamed. Brian insisted on using these beautiful sketches his wife made. She's so talented, though I haven't had the pleasure of meeting her yet. My wine glass froze halfway to my lips. He used my designs, but told Eloise they were just some sketches from his wife. A wife she didn't even know? How interesting, I managed to say. I look forward to experiencing everything the restaurant has to offer. As Eloise walked away, I opened my notebook to a fresh page. At the top, I wrote a single word: betrayal. The review was about to get much more personal than I'd planned. The first course arrived, a delicate amuse-bouche that I recognized immediately. It was my grandmother's recipe, the one I'd taught Brian during our first year together. He'd modified it slightly, adding a modern twist, but the soul of the dish remained uniquely mine. The chef was inspired by traditional immigrant cuisine, Paisley explained, setting down the plate. He believes in honoring cultural heritage while elevating it to fine dining standards. My throat tightened. How fascinating. And whose heritage might this be? Before Paisley could answer, Eloise appeared again, this time helping an elderly woman to a nearby table. The gentleness in her movements caught me off guard. "That's my grandmother," Paisley whispered, following my gaze. "She's been sick, but Eloise drives her to chemotherapy every Tuesday. Won't let anyone else do it." I blinked, my perfectly crafted narrative suddenly developing cracks. "That's unexpected." "Oh, Eloise is amazing," Paisley continued. "She's been teaching me about wine pairings after hours, and she even offered to help pay for my culinary classes when I was struggling with tuition." I wrote this down, though I wasn't sure why. It didn't fit with my revenge narrative. The villain in my story wasn't supposed to drive old ladies to chemo or mentor struggling students. "Ms. Stone?" Eloise approached my table again. "I hope you don't mind, but I selected a special wine pairing for your next course. It's from a small vineyard in my hometown." "Please sit," I heard myself say. "Tell me about it." Eloise's face lit up as she slid into the chair across from me. "It's a family vineyard, actually. My father planted those vines when I was little. We nearly lost everything during the recession, but we managed to save just enough vines to keep producing small batches." "Is that what brought you into the restaurant business?" I asked, genuinely curious now. Her smile faltered slightly. "Actually, I never wanted to run a restaurant. I'm a sommelier by training. But Brian, he can be very persuasive when he wants something." I caught the edge in her voice, recognized it from my own experiences with Brian's persuasion. Does he often get what he wants? I kept my tone neutral, professional. Eloise glanced toward the kitchen, lowering her voice. "He convinced me this place needed me, that I was essential to its success. But lately..." She straightened suddenly, professional mask back in place. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't burden you with this." "No, please," I said, dropping Victoria's accent for a moment before catching myself. "I mean, do continue. It adds context to the review. It's just..." Eloise twisted her napkin. "Have you ever felt trapped by someone else's dream? Like you're playing a role in a play you never auditioned for?" The irony of her words hit me like a physical blow. Here I was, literally playing a role, while she spoke about feeling trapped in hers. A crash from the kitchen interrupted us. Brian's voice carried across the restaurant. "Are you trying to ruin everything? Get out of my kitchen." A young line cook hurried out, fighting back tears. Eloise immediately stood, her instinct to comfort clearly visible. "Excuse me," she said. "I should..." "Of course." I watched as she intercepted the cook, leading her to a quiet corner. Their conversation was too far away to hear, but I saw Eloise pull out her phone, apparently taking down the cook's information. Paisley appeared with my next course. "Eloise keeps a list," she explained, noticing my interest. "Of all the staff Brian, well, she helps them find new jobs, better ones. How many are on this list?" 12, just since I started 3 months ago. I added another note to my book, then crossed out the word betrayal at the top. Below it, I wrote, "Complicated." The kitchen doors swung open and Brian emerged, his chef's coat pristine despite the earlier chaos. He was heading toward my table, that familiar, charming smile on his face. "Paisley," I said quickly, "please inform the chef that I maintain strict anonymity during initial reviews. No exceptions." She nodded and intercepted him, delivering my message. I watched his face darken with frustration. He wasn't used to being denied anything he wanted. My phone buzzed. A text from Sasha. How's Operation Takedown going? I looked around the restaurant, at Eloise, still consoling the cook, at Paisley, who dreamed of being more than just a server, at the line cooks visible through the kitchen doors, all working under Brian's tyrannical perfectionism. Change of plans, I typed back. I think there's something bigger here than just revenge. What do you mean? I watched as Brian stormed back into the kitchen, shouting at another cook for some minor infraction. Eloise winced at the sound, her hand unconsciously touching her neck as if it were too tight. I came here to burn down his dream, I replied to Sasha, but I think I might need to save everyone trapped inside it first. The next course arrived, another of my family's recipes, transformed by Brian's touch. But this time, instead of anger, I felt something different, something like purpose. I picked up my pen and began to write. The main course arrived with a flourish, pan-seared sea bass with saffron risotto. My stomach clenched. It was the dish Brian had cooked the night he proposed. Back then, the risotto had been perfectly creamy. Tonight, I could see it was slightly overcooked, the rice grains breaking down from too much agitation. The chef is quite anxious about this dish, Paisley confided as she set it down. He's remade it 3 times. A deep voice behind me added, and thrown 2 pans across the kitchen in the process. I turned to find an older man in chef whites watching me with knowing eyes. His name tag read, Samir Sous Chef. Please, I gestured to the empty chair, maintaining Victoria's accent. Join me for a moment. Samir sat, his weathered hands folded on the table. The risotto isn't quite right, is it? You have a good eye. So do you. Savannah. My fork clattered against the plate. I'm sorry, you must be... I worked with your father for 15 years at his diner, Samir said quietly. You look different, but you stir your coffee the same way. 3 times clockwise, 1 counterclockwise. Just like him. I felt my carefully constructed facade cracking. Please don't... I won't say anything, he assured me. But I have to ask, is this really what you want? Before I could answer, Brian's voice boomed from the kitchen again. Where the hell is my sous chef? These garnishes are garbage. Samir sighed. He wasn't always like this, you know. The pressure of opening this place, the investors breathing down his neck. The investors? I leaned forward. What investors? I funded everything. Samir's eyes widened slightly. He told everyone the money came from private investors, said his wife was supportive but not involved. Another crash from the kitchen made us both jump. Through the service window, I could see Brian berating a line cook over plate presentation. How do you stand it? I asked. I stay for them. Samir nodded toward the kitchen staff. Someone needs to buffer his temper, teach these kids properly. He paused, studying me. Your father did the same for me when I was starting out. A commotion near the entrance drew our attention. A food photographer had arrived, apparently scheduled by Brian without telling Eloise, and was demanding to rearrange tables for better lighting. Excuse me, Samir stood. Eloise looks like she needs backup. I watched as he smoothly intervened, his calm presence defusing the situation. The photographer backed down, and Eloise shot Samir a grateful look. My phone buzzed with another text from Sasha. Need an extraction? No, I replied. But I need you to look something up. Find out everything you can about the restaurant's investors. What investors? You paid for everything. Exactly. Paisley returned to check on me, her earlier nervousness replaced with genuine concern. Is everything okay with the food, Mrs. Stone? Chef Brian is very invested in your opinion. I looked at my plate, at the overcooked risotto, the slightly overseared fish, the pretentious garnishes that added nothing to the dish. In his desperate attempt to impress, Brian had lost the soul of the cooking. Paisley, I said, if you were running this kitchen, what would you do differently? Her eyes lit up before she caught herself. Oh, I couldn't possibly. Please, I'm curious. Well, she glanced around before continuing in a whisper. I'd focus more on letting ingredients speak for themselves. Less foam and fancy garnishes, more honest cooking. And I'd actually teach the line cooks instead of just yelling at them. Like Samir does? Exactly. He's the only reason most of us haven't quit. He actually explains things, shows us techniques. Chef Brian just expects perfection without teaching how to achieve it. The kitchen doors burst open again as Brian emerged, his face flushed with either anger or wine. Probably both. He was heading toward my table again, determination in his stride. "Paisley," I said quickly, "the check, please, and please remind the chef about my anonymity policy." But he insists no exceptions. As Paisley intercepted Bran, I watched his reaction. The way his face contorted with rage at being denied. The way both Eloise and Samir moved to contain the situation. It was like watching a carefully choreographed dance of damage control. I signed the check, adding a generous tip for Paisley, and gathered my things. But as I stood to leave, I caught Samir's eye across the room. He gave me a subtle nod that seemed to say both, "I understand," and "be careful." Walking out, I heard Brian's voice one last time. "If this review isn't perfect, someone's getting fired." I pulled out my phone and texted Sasha, "I need your help with something bigger than a review. We need to find out where all his money is really coming from." "Why?" she replied. "Because," I typed, looking back at the restaurant's gleaming facade. "I think my husband is running a bigger con than just betraying his wife, and I'm going to expose every last bit of it." "You need to see this," Sasha said, spreading documents across my kitchen counter the next morning. "I had my friend at the bank look into things. There's not just your money in that restaurant." I picked up a paper, scanning the numbers. "These deposits, they're huge. Where did he get this kind of cash?" "Keep reading." As I flipped through the documents, a pattern emerged. Multiple investors, all with suspiciously similar banking patterns. Large deposits followed by immediate withdrawals, leaving just enough to make everything look legitimate. "He's laundering money," I whispered, using my investment to make it all look clean. "It gets worse." Sasha pulled out her phone, showing me a series of social media posts. "Remember how Eloise's family owns a vineyard? Look at the wine list from last night." I pulled out my critic's notebook, comparing the wines. They're all listed as being from her family's vineyard, but her family's vineyard went bankrupt 3 years ago. These wines? Sasha tapped the menu. "They're fakes. Really good ones, but fakes." My hands started shaking. Does Eloise know? Based on what Samir told you about her teaching wine classes? No way. She's probably just as much a victim as... A knock at the door cut her off. We frantically gathered the papers, shoving them into a drawer. I opened the door to find Samir standing there, still in his chef whites. "May I come in?" he asked. "We need to talk." I ushered him inside, noticing how exhausted he looked. "How did you find my address?" "Your father's old address book. He kept track of everyone he cared about." Samir sat heavily at my kitchen counter. "I'm here because what you're doing, it's dangerous." "What do you mean?" "The people Brian's involved with, they're not just restaurant investors. Last night, after you left, some men came to the restaurant, the kind that make you wish you hadn't seen their faces." Sasha pulled out her phone again. "Did they look like these men?" She showed him surveillance photos from the restaurant's opening night. Samir's face paled. "Where did you get those?" "I'm a makeup artist for film productions," Sasha explained. "I know people who know people. These guys, they're connected to some serious criminal organizations." "Brian's in deep with them," Samir confirmed. "But he's getting sloppy. The wine scam, the money laundering. It's only a matter of time before someone notices." "Someone already has," I said. "Me. That's why I'm here." Samir leaned forward. "Your review could expose everything. But if you do that, it's not just Brian who suffers. The staff, Eloise, everyone who works there, they'll all be caught in the crossfire." My phone buzzed. A text from Brian. "The critic's review posts tomorrow. Everything has to be perfect tonight, no mistakes." "He's planning something for tonight," I said. "Another wine tasting, probably." "A big shipment came in this morning," Samir confirmed. "They're bottling it in the basement right now." Sasha grabbed her laptop. "Give me 20 minutes. I know someone who can test wine authenticity on site." "No," I said, an idea forming. "I have a better plan." I turned to Samir. "How many of the staff know what's really going on?" "None. They suspect something's wrong, but they're too afraid to ask questions." "And Eloise?" "She trusts Brian completely, or at least she did. Lately, I've seen her questioning things, especially after the incident with the line cook last night." I pulled out my critic's notebook, flipping to a fresh page. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. Tonight, Victoria Stone is coming back for a follow-up visit, but this time she's bringing a wine expert." "That's not standard procedure," Samir said. "Neither is running a criminal enterprise out of my restaurant." I looked at Sasha. Can you make me look different enough that even someone who saw me yesterday wouldn't recognize me? Please, Sasha scoffed. That's amateur hour. But what's the real plan? I wrote down 3 names: Eloise, Paisley, Samir. We're not just exposing Brian, I explained. We're giving everyone trapped in his web a chance to escape. But first, we need evidence. The basement, Samir said suddenly. There's a hidden room where they keep the real records, but you'll never get in there during service. I won't have to, I smiled, because you're going to get me in there before service starts. Samir considered this for a long moment. If this goes wrong, it won't, I promised, though my heart was racing. But I need to know. Are you with us? He looked at the names I'd written down, then added a few more, other staff members who deserved better. Your father once told me that doing the right thing is rarely the easy thing, but it's always worth it. Then let's take him down, I said. Not just for revenge, but for justice. Sasha raised an eyebrow. You realize how cheesy that sounds, right? Shut up and help me plan. I checked the time. We have 6 hours until dinner service. Let's make them count. The health inspector usually checks the basement storage first, Samir explained as he led me through the dark corridor beneath the restaurant. So they keep everything looking perfect here. He pushed open a heavy door, but behind this wine rack, I helped him slide the rack aside, revealing another door cleverly disguised as part of the wall. The lock clicked open under Samir's key, and we stepped into a cramped room filled with boxes, ledgers, and winemaking equipment. They do the bottling here, he said, gesturing to a crude assembly line, late at night after everyone's gone. I snapped photos with my phone, making sure to capture the labels and serial numbers. And Eloise has no idea. They tell her it's all from her family's vineyard, special reserve batches that were saved before the bankruptcy. My phone buzzed. Sasha. In position upstairs. Brian just arrived? We need to move, I said, quickly photographing the ledgers. How long until service? 2 hours, but... Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Samir's eyes widened. Hide! I ducked behind a stack of boxes as the door swung open. Brian's voice filled the small space. The wine expert is coming tonight? With the critic? That's what the reservation said. The second voice was unfamiliar, rough. This could be a problem, Brian. It's fine. We'll serve them the real stuff. I have a few bottles set aside. And what about the other tables? We've got 40 cases of fake wine upstairs that need to move tonight. Just stick to the plan. No one can tell the difference anyway. These food critics just pretend. A crash from upstairs interrupted them. I heard Brian swear. Go check on that, he ordered. I need to review these numbers before service. One set of footsteps retreated. I held my breath as Brian moved around the room, muttering to himself. Through a gap in the boxes, I could see him pulling out ledgers, making adjustments. My phone vibrated silently. Another text from Sasha. Sorry about the crash. Needed a distraction. You okay? Before I could respond, the door opened again. Brian? It was Eloise's voice. What are you doing down here? Nothing, just inventory. In the wine room you told me was off limits? Her voice had an edge I hadn't heard before. I thought I saw... Never mind. But we need to talk about tonight. About everything, actually. Not now, Eloise. We have a critic coming. That's just it. I've been thinking about what that line cook said last night about the wine shipments. And I called my father. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. You did what? He said our vineyard hasn't produced anything in 3 years. So where is all this wine really coming from? You're confused. Brian's voice turned soothing, manipulative, a tone I knew too well. Your father's memory isn't what it used to be. Remember how he forgot about the reserve cellars? Stop lying to me. Eloise's voice cracked. I found the bottles, the fake labels. What are you involved in? Keep your voice down, Brian hissed. You don't understand what's at stake here. Then explain it to me. I can't. And if you know what's good for you, you'll drop this right now. The threat in his voice made me flinch. Through the gap, I saw him grab Eloise's arm. Let go of me, she said quietly. Promise me you'll keep quiet. Just for tonight. After the critics' review, things will be different. I'll explain everything. You're hurting me. Promise me. Another crash from upstairs, louder this time. Brian swore again. Go, he told Eloise. And remember, not a word. They left, the door slamming behind them. I waited 30 seconds before emerging from my hiding spot, hands shaking as I texted Sasha. Change of plans. We move tonight, during service. What happened? Eloise knows something's wrong. I'm worried about what Brian might do. Samir reappeared, looking shaken. I heard everything. We should call the police. Not yet, I said, showing him the photos I'd taken. We need to make sure everyone's safe first, and we need to prove where this wine is really coming from. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number. The text made my blood run cold. Nice hiding spot. Meet me in the alley in 10 minutes if you want to help take him down. E. Eloise knows I'm here, I told Samir. She must have seen me. What are you going to do? I looked at the time. 90 minutes until service. Until Victoria Stone's grand return. But right now, Eloise needed Savannah. I'm going to tell her the truth, I said, heading for the door. All of it. Be careful, Samir called after me. Once you start this? I know, I turned back. There's no going back. But looking at the photos on my phone, the fake wines, the threatening grip on Eloise's arm, the ledgers full of laundered money, I knew there was no going back anyway. Tonight wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about setting everyone free. The alley behind the restaurant was dark except for a single security light. Eloise stood in its glow, arms crossed, her elegant posture at odds with our grimy surroundings. I know who you are, she said as I approached. You're his wife. I nodded, removing my wig. And you're the woman he named my restaurant after. Your restaurant? Her eyes widened. He said the money came from investors. The initial investment was mine, $300,000. I pulled out my phone, showing her the bank transfers. But apparently that was just the beginning. Eloise leaned against the wall, suddenly looking exhausted. I should have known. The wine, the mysterious meetings, the way he'd get so angry when I asked questions. She touched her arm where Brian had grabbed her. How long have you known? About the criminal activity, just since last night. About you and him, since I got the invitation with your name on it. I never wanted this, she said quietly. Any of it. He convinced me my family's vineyard could be saved if I helped him. Said he'd restore everything my father lost. A door slammed somewhere above us. We both jumped. We don't have much time, I said. Service starts in an hour, and Victoria Stone has a reservation. You're her, the critic? Yes. And tonight I'm bringing a wine expert, my sister Sasha. We can expose everything, but we need your help. Eloise straightened up. What do you need me to do? Keep serving the fake wine. Act normal. But I need you to get me something from his office. The real ledgers. The ones that show where the money's really coming from. I can't go in there. He'll know. Chef needs you. Paisley's voice called from the back door. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. It's okay, I said. Paisley, we need your help too. Her eyes darted between us. Is this about the wine? Because I've noticed some weird things during inventory. Get in here. Eloise pulled her into our huddle. Quick version. Brian's running a criminal operation. We're taking him down tonight. Paisley barely blinked. Finally, what's the plan? Over the next 10 minutes, we outlined everything. Paisley would create a distraction in the kitchen while Eloise accessed Brian's office. I would return as Victoria Stone, with Sasha as my wine expert. What about the other staff? Paisley asked. Some of them have been keeping notes, documenting things that seemed wrong. Get them to Samir, I said. He's gathering evidence. My phone buzzed. Sasha. Police contact ready when you give the word. 1 hour, I told Eloise and Paisley. Whatever happens, keep Brian in the dining room when I make my entrance. He needs to see everything fall apart publicly. Why? Eloise asked. Because men like him care more about their reputation than anything else. His investors need to see him fail. Paisley's eyes lit up with understanding. The investors are coming tonight, aren't they? That's why he's so stressed about the critic. Exactly, and they're going to get quite a show. The back door opened again. Samir this time. Brian's looking for both of you, he told Eloise and Paisley. And he's not happy. Go, I said. Act normal, I'll see you in an hour. As they turned to leave, Eloise grabbed my arm. Why are you helping me? After what I did? You didn't do anything. He did this to both of us. I managed a small smile. Besides, my father always said the best revenge is living well and helping others do the same. Your father sounds wise. He was, and tonight we're going to make him proud. They disappeared inside, leaving me with Samir in the alley. The staff is ready, he said. Everyone knows their part. And the evidence? He patted his pocket. All copied and safe, including some interesting photos of tonight's wine production setup. My phone buzzed again, Sasha sending the final confirmation. Hair, makeup, and disguise ready at my place. Time to transform Victoria Stone one last time. This could go wrong in so many ways, Samir warned. It could, but doing nothing would be worse. I checked the time. 45 minutes until the performance of a lifetime. Break a leg, Samir smiled. Or in this case, maybe break a wine glass. I headed towards Sasha's car, parked at the end of the alley, my mind already running through the evening ahead. The evidence gathering, the wine expert's damning analysis, the police waiting for my signal. But mostly, I thought about Eloise's face when she realized she'd been betrayed too. About Paisley's instant readiness to help. About all the staff members quietly documenting wrongs, waiting for a chance to make things right. My phone buzzed one final time. Brian, can't wait to see you at home later. Tonight's going to be perfect. I didn't reply. Instead, I deleted his number and texted our growing group chat. Places everyone. The show's about to begin. Tonight, Victoria Stone would write her last review. But more importantly, Savannah would finally reclaim her voice and help others find theirs too. The 2019 Bordeaux, I announced loudly, swirling the wine in my glass as Brian hovered nearby, has distinct notes of fraud. The dining room fell silent. At the investors' table, several men in expensive suits stopped mid-conversation. I beg your pardon? Brian's smile remained fixed, but his eyes darted nervously. Sasha, playing her role as wine expert perfectly, held her glass to the light. This isn't a Bordeaux. In fact, it's not even French. Would you like to know what it actually is? There must be some mistake. Brian laughed, but sweat beaded on his forehead. Perhaps we could discuss this privately? Oh, let's discuss it right here. I stood, dropping Victoria's accent. Along with the fake labels in your basement, the money laundering ledgers, and the threats you made to keep everyone quiet. Recognition flickered across his face. Savannah? Surprise, honey. The investors started to rise, but Eloise appeared at the dining room entrance with 2 police officers. More officers filtered in through the kitchen. The wine's not the only thing that's fake, Eloise announced, holding up a stack of documents. These ledgers show everything. The money laundering, the counterfeiting operation, the threats. Brian lunged for the papers, but Samir stepped between them. Behind him, the kitchen staff emerged, led by Paisley, each carrying their own evidence, photos, notes, recordings. It's over, I said quietly. Every bottle, every threat, every lie. We have proof of all of it. You don't understand, Brian pleaded, turning to the investors. I can explain. Save it for your lawyer, one of the investors growled, already dialing his phone. As the police moved in, reading rights and applying handcuffs, I watched my husband's carefully constructed world crumble. The charming smile disappeared, replaced by something ugly and desperate. You'll regret this, he spat at me. All of you will. Actually, Paisley stepped forward, phone in hand. We got that threat on video too. The officers led him away, followed by several angry investors in handcuffs. The remaining diners sat in stunned silence. Ladies and gentlemen, Eloise addressed the room, her voice steady. Due to tonight's events, your meals are complimentary. But please stay. The kitchen is now under new management. She gestured to Samir, who nodded. Tonight's menu will be slightly different. We're going back to basics. Honest food, made with respect and integrity. And real wine, Sasha added with a wink. The dining room gradually returned to life, the drama transforming into the kind of story people would tell for years. In the kitchen, I watched Samir and Paisley work side by side, creating dishes that needed no pretense. So, Eloise joined me at the bar. What happens now? Well, I still own this place, I said, but I think it needs a new name, and new management. She raised an eyebrow. What did you have in mind? How about a partnership? You handle the wine program, legitimately this time. Samir runs the kitchen with Paisley as his sous chef. Real food, real wine, real people. And you? I pulled out my critic's notebook one last time. I write one final review. Not about the food or wine, but about redemption, about people finding their voice and their strength. Speaking of strength, Sasha called from the door. The detective wants statements from everyone. But first, she held up her phone, showing a news alert. Your review just went live. I looked at the headline. Acclaimed critic exposes criminal enterprise masquerading as fine dining. Below, it was a smaller headline. Local restaurant staff hailed as heroes for speaking out. You didn't mention yourself, Eloise noted, reading over my shoulder. Victoria Stone's work is done, I said. It's time for Savannah to start something new. The kitchen doors swung open as Samir emerged with a plate. First dish from the new menu, he announced. My mother's recipe, with a twist from Paisley. We gathered around the dish, staff, police, even some curious diners. The aroma brought tears to my eyes. It was simple, honest, perfect. To new beginnings, Eloise raised her glass, filled with wine from a small local vineyard we'd found together. To finding our voices, Paisley added. To family, Samir smiled, chosen and created. I looked around at these people who had become more than allies. They were partners, friends, family. We'd turned a story of betrayal into one of triumph, not through revenge, but through unity and truth. To us, I said, raising my glass, and to making something real. As conversations and laughter filled the room, I sent one final text to the group chat we'd created. Same time tomorrow, we have a restaurant to rebuild. The responses came instantly. Thumbs up, heart emojis, excited yes messages. I smiled, put away my phone, and joined my new family at the table. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's creating something better from the ashes of what was lost. And sometimes it's as simple as sharing an honest meal with people who remind you who you really are.